Tom Steyer and Kat are business leaders who believe we have moral responsibility to give back and help ensure that every family shares the benefits of economic opportunity, education, and a healthy climate. In 2010, they joined the Giving Pledge, and you may be familiar with the Giving Pledge with Warren Buffett and many other people agreeing to give away most of their lives' earnings to charitable causes during their lifetimes. So going to Tom Steyer's background, he's an extremely successful ran an extremely successful California business, which he actually left to work on nonprofit and advocacy efforts. He's president of NextGen America, an organization he founded in 2013 to prevent climate disaster, and over time it has grown to fight for a fair future. Tom and NextGen invest in the Million Voters Project, a statewide coalition, including PACT, which is, all of you agree, is an amazing organization, and our PICO California network to register and engage new voters to exercise the power of their votes. Tom provides leadership for progressive public policies. He's a supporter for Measure A, which provides almost $1 billion for affordable housing in Santa Clara County. Through Prop 47, Prop 57, and bail reform, Tom has been a champion for transforming the criminal justice system to focus on rehabilitation. Tom supported SB 54, the California Values Act. That, ladies and gentlemen, is Tom Steyer, but I have now Kat Taylor to describe to you and her amazing achievements. Kat is intent on changing the banking and food systems for good through business models and philanthropy. She founded the Tomcat Ranch Educational Foundation and the Tomcat Charitable Trust to support a robust ecosystem for food system change. In 2007, Tom and Kat started the Beneficial State Bank to align banking with benefit to all and harm to none. Kat serves as co-CEO and co-chair of the bank, which provides loans to people and small businesses shut out by the traditional banking system and reinvests profits into the low-resourced communities it serves. Simply said, Tom and Kat are extraordinary, very extraordinary. They are leaders and they are visionaries. They are transformative figures. They epitomize, in my opinion, the soul of America, to stand up and do something, not to sit quietly and watch, to not wait on the sidelines and let things slide, to never fail to lead and inspire, to challenge the status quo and provoke us, all of us, to do good better and better. I am so proud to have been honored by PACT to honor and bring them on stage, Tom Steyer and Kat Taylor.
Tom and I left our day jobs after John Kerry also was not elected and jumped fully on the game board. It is a great pleasure and honor to be fully engaged, and we are so lucky in the company we keep. Thank you, PACT, for honoring us. We feel so humbled and quite unworthy, but grateful to be once again in such fine company. Tom will talk more about PACT for sure. It's my intent to reveal the approach we are taking across our so-called philanthropic activities, which increasingly defy being characterized that way. Our work across three giant and overlapping systems, good energy, good food, and good money, really stems from the need to get fundamental institutions right in our society in the first place. There is simply not enough governmental, much less philanthropic resource to clean up after an economy performing poorly with regard to social justice, inclusion, our natural capital, and of course, climate resiliency. My thesis is that we are enduring too long and too many extractive business models, and we desperately need innovation and reform across the board. So across these verticals, Tom and I committed to taking operating roles, not philanthropic ones, to gain the unique insights of actual actors in these systems as they attempt to be viable and high-performing and run into the paradoxes and perverse incentives that seem to be so prevalent in all sectors of our economy. After all, business and commerce drive determinative social outcomes, not just economic ones. And these days we are perilously close to what Tom has called a democracy of dollars instead of a democracy of people, because of the aggrandizement of power and rule-writing ability these giant corporations lurching around our planet have accumulated. We always take a systems view approach and try to solve holistically. And we started new organizations to expose the lessons, attract the talent, and shift the systems any which way we possibly could. We should not stop trying to do that until we have an economy as well as a society that unlocks the constructive genius of every ordinary person. Time for a few shout outs, because this led us to start Beneficial State Bank, as well as our aligned venture funds, Radical Impact Partners, and Bright Path Capital Partners. And some of you might be in the room, so raise your hand if you are. Tomcat Ranch and Tomcat Ranch Educational Foundation, and in Tom's case, NextGen America. We do also practice philanthropy for sure, and have been enriched in the process by close partnerships with grantees of Tomcat Foundation, but primarily we are acting in coalition with them. Tom has insisted across the board the importance of declaring a mission in every organization. In the case of NextGen, as you heard, it is to act politically to avert climate disaster, restore broad prosperity, and protect fundamental liberties. Tomcat Ranch and the Educational Foundation run a learning laboratory on a working ranch to harvest best practice, best thinking, and best coalitions on regenerative agriculture, and help shift the food system to the benefit of people and planet. Beneficial State Bank pursues a unique business model in order to attain its mission, and actually has modified its mission over the learning experience of the last 10 years. The bank was founded in 2007 as a triple bottom line bank, mandated to produce social justice and environmental well-being at the same time that it is economically sustainable. It has 3 unique design features, keeping it aligned in the public interest. First and foremost, 100% of its economic rights are owned by Beneficial State Foundation, which is permanently governed in the public interest, and as mentioned before, is the only entity that can receive profit from the bank. The foundation's bylaws mandate that if and when it receives profit, it must reinvest those profits into the low-income communities that we serve and the environment upon which we all depend. The second design feature is a lending practice. In at least a metaphorical sense, banking is the original and most powerful form of crowdfunding. We pool our idle cash, our deposits, to finance the world in which we actually wish to live. Not that every deposit supports a specific loan, but all deposits support a lending practice. And it is our job to awaken the agency and accountability of every bank customer for where their money sleeps at night and what it's getting done thereby through that lending practice. The third design feature is radical transparency. If you want to find out what we're doing, I guarantee you can, and I encourage you to go to beneficialstate.org/impact for robust reporting. That's important to our theory of change, because even at $1 billion in assets, 225 colleagues, and 17 branch offices, we know full well we are not replacing a massive banking system that has players well over $2 trillion in assets anytime soon. Instead, we are providing a playbook for large regional banks to hold to standards that will help them win the market share wars. Market share of deposits, market share of equity capital, and most importantly, market share of beautiful human beings called human capital. So partners along the way for us have included wonderful organizations that rely on philanthropic support, including Center for Eco-Literacy, which is inspiring a shift in our food supply chain to prepare healthy food in schools through California Food for California Kids and California Thursdays. It includes Inner City Advisors and BALI, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies, to support vibrant inner cities and well-connected rural economies. It is a we are escorted by a host of movement building organizations, including Color of Change, the Movement for Black Lives, Dakota Access Pipeline, and many, many others. And we are proud that this evening, Good Samaritan Family Resource Center, one of our longest standing partners, which has been welcoming newcomers and immigrants in the Mission District of San Francisco for 124 years, will be the beneficiary of the premiere of a Pixar movie called Coco, about a young man's, Latino boy's journey to the land of the dead to find his origin story in an event called Stand Up for Inclusion. Special shout out to Marcela Davison Aviles and Darla Anderson for gaining that benefit for Good Sam. Taking an operating role does not mean taking over. It means co-creating a beautiful future by putting more and different people in charge. We need all voices at the table when it comes to building an economy that's just and inclusive. And you don't get diversity unless you choose diversity and empower it once it's in place. State Bank's employment strategy is to pay 150% of living wage in all markets, fully benefited, no part-time tolerated. But it also empowers our colleagues to take action in their own communities through a sponsorship budget that represents 5 to 10% equivalent of the bank's profit, distributed through local branch teams, through paid time off of 32 hours for volunteer activities, and $250 to match grants. So I want to finish my remarks with a special shout out to our Chief Administrative Officer, who is a principal designer of that employment policy, Madison Lee, living here in San Jose. She is herself a director and an advocate for another organization in the room, Unity Care, a nonprofit organization reaching 6,300 families, especially young people, with critical life support programs across their 5 pillars of housing, education, employment, well-being, and unconditional care. Shout out to UC. Now, on to the importance of organizing and old-fashioned democracy in these times. I give you my husband, Tom Steyer.
I'd have to say the last year has been a little tough. And in particular, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most in the last year is being around people who are pushing to do the right thing because they deeply believe in it and for no other reason. And I know this room is filled with people like that, but I want to just call out 3 of them, Dolores, Akemi, and Kat, for the work they do, and to point out that although you can tell from their names that they come from very different cultural traditions, they are in fact all women. And it should be no surprise to us, because as I go around the state and the country to events like this, and generally there's a table where you sign in, they tell you what table you're at, and they greet you and give you whatever name tag you need. They're overwhelmingly populated by women doing the work. And I always try and thank them for doing the work, and I went up to one lady who was about 80 or 85 years old with a little halo of white hair that looked just like my mother, and I said, I want to thank you, ma'am, for doing this, and I noticed that everyone doing the work is a woman. And she said, Tom, we get stuff done. So for all the women in the room, for the work you do, so at NextGen, we believe in 2 real principles about what's going on right now. One of them is grassroots, the value of grassroots, and the other is just plain values. So let me talk for a second about grassroots. We deeply believe in the work of PACT. We deeply believe in the work of PICO. We have 65 partners in the state of California who we work with and try and help as they do their work of knocking on doors, of encouraging citizen-to-citizen conversations, of empowering communities to have a voice in the democratic process. We deeply believe that the broadest democracy is the best democracy, that every community has got to be fairly represented, and we try and make that is That is our goal in the democratic process, is to include as many people and as many communities as possible, because we think it gets the best, most just outcome, the most effective outcome, and it is a value in and of itself. So when we think about this work, last year in 2016, with the help of organizations like this one, of the people sitting in this room, we registered 807,000 people in the state of California. And we knew before we started that those people would be overwhelmingly young, they would be overwhelmingly people of color, they would be people in communities who were underrepresented, and therefore elected officials would not pay as much attention to them because elected officials feel like they need to get reelected. And so therefore it's absolutely essential that people be registered, engaged, and participate, so that their voices are heard, so that they get a fair treatment in the eyes of the law and in of the state. So when we look around the United States of America, we can tell that there is a strong movement not to think of everyone in this country as a full human being. There's a deliberate attempt to divide us on so many different lines, whether it's ethnicity, race, gender, sexual preference. There is an absolutely deliberate and, in my mind, evil attempt to look at people as not 360 degrees human beings. So when we think about the value that we believe in most strongly, when we think about what justice is in the United States of America, we come back to the idea of everybody being fully human, deserving of full political rights and privileges, but also the right to dignity and respect. So when we think about, I know people have been directly and indirectly talking about immigration here. There are a couple of different ways to talk about immigration. People want to talk about it in terms of laws and borders. That in fact we have laws on the books, we're a society of laws, we need to think about this as a purely legal situation, and a country without borders isn't a country. But the way that we like to look at it is as a justice question about human beings. There have been plenty of laws in the history of the United States that have been inherently brutally unjust. And to say you have a law in your hand that enables you to go with an automatic weapon into schools, or to follow people into courts or into hospitals, that has nothing to do with justice. A society that depends on the contribution and the labor of immigrants without providing a path to citizenship is inherently unjust. And to wave a piece of paper around to pretend that somehow that made it just makes no sense in the context of the American history. And in my mind, I just came from Virginia. I don't know how closely the people in California followed Virginia. But there was a deliberate attempt to divide people along racial lines. There was a deliberate attempt to try to vilify immigrants and Latinos specifically. It was conscious and it was absolutely wrong. And so what we saw in Virginia, which was incredibly heartening, I actually don't know how it would have felt if it had come out the other way. But that was absolutely rejected by the people of Virginia. Young people came out, especially the young people in that state, came out in record numbers to absolutely vote against that way of thinking. So when we think about our basic values, I think we're talking about, PACT is talking about economic and human justice. I think the first thing that we need to think about when we think about our society is, what is success in America in the 21st century? What will determine success for all of us? And I would posit to you that success will depend on the American people. So we should be investing in the American people. We should be investing in education. We should be investing in health. We should be investing in training. We should be investing in food for poor kids in schools. If you look at the budget, they're trying to take out free lunch for poor kids as a non-essential. If you want the United States to succeed in the 21st century, it will not be because we have the biggest army. It will not be because we have the most oil and gas, I promise. It will be because the people of the United States are trained, productive, innovative, hardworking, and successful. So when we think about how are we going to make ourselves successful, we have to look at an 18-year-old Latino kid in San Pedro, California, and think, that is our future. He or she has got to have a chance to be productive. And it doesn't matter if it's in San Pedro or Appalachia or Michigan or Florida. That is our future. So we have to make sure that we are supporting Americans in their attempts to lead better, more productive, healthier lives. The second thing I'll say is, we have to rebuild this country. Listen, I spent 35 years as a professional investor. People keep acting like infrastructure is a value in and of itself. Infrastructure, in my mind, is just an investment. You're buying something, you're building something. Building something isn't inherently good. Building something good is good. Making a smart investment is good. So when we think about the United States of America, we have to make smart investments that will pay off for all of us for 50 years, and that means a sustainable world. There's no reason for us to invest in the technologies of the past and then have to redo it 5 years from now. We will spend over $300 billion this year on climate-related disasters. It's about time for us to start building a world that we can live in going forward for all of us. And if we want to create good-paying jobs in every community in the United States, it's by building a sustainable America for all of us to live in a way that our kids and grandkids can also live safely and in a healthy way. So, we worked with people in this county on Measure A, which is affordable housing. We worked on Measure B, which is public transportation. We worked on Measure E, which is fair treatment for workers. We know why this organization works. We totally believe in the voice of people, enabling the broad voice of people to be heard. That's what's supposed to happen in democracy. The people's voice is supposed to rule. And that is what we believe in. That's what we try to enable. We are a justice-driven organization. That is what we want. That is why we love you. That is why we are so proud to partner with you and people like you, that it's grassroots and values. We believe there is an absolute yearning in America for all of us to do the right thing together, to build a better, more prosperous, more just future that includes all of us. People are dying for this. It is not rocket science to do it, and we can do it together. So with that, I'm going to give you back to my wife, Catherine Ann Taylor.
Hang on, just hang on for a minute. I've got something to say. I'm not asking you to move on or forget it, but we need better days. To be wrong all along and admit it is not amazing grace, but to be loved like a song you remember even when you've changed. Tell me, did I go on a tangent? Did I lie through my teeth? Did I cause you to stumble on your feet? Did I bring shame on my family? Did it show when I was weak? Whatever you'd seen, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Oh, that wasn't me. When you're lost, you will toss every lucky coin you'll ever trust, and you'll hide from your God like he ever turns his back on us. And you will fall all the way to the bottom and land on your own knife. And you'll learn who you are even if it doesn't take your life. Tell me, did I go on a tangent? Did I lie through my teeth? Did I cause you to stumble on your feet? Did I bring shame on my family? Did it show when I was weak? Whatever you'd seen, that wasn't me. That wasn't me. Oh, that wasn't me. But I want you to know that you'll never be alone. I want to believe. Do I make myself a blessing to everyone I meet? When you fall, I will get you on your feet. Do I spend time with my family? Did it show when I was weak? When that's what you've seen, that will be me. That will be me. That will be me. That will be me. Thank you very much for this honor.